How's it going, guys? John, the basic expert here, and this week, you were probably expecting some West End game Star Wars D6, and instead I'm talking about Alternative History Ancient Rome RPG as a review. I was sent this a couple weeks back to review, and I've kind of been dragging my feet on it, and I feel really bad. The Kickstarter is about to end for this, and I really need to get this done as soon as possible. The people at Acheron Games were kind enough to send me a PDF of their game, Lex Arcana, which is a really cool game, and I've been wanting to make this video. It's just a matter of having the time to do it, and with everything going on and on my end, the projects that I'm doing too much at once probably, but it's all for you guys, so I hope you guys appreciate it. Anyways, Lex Arcana is a really cool game. It is its own unique system. You might be because you might have been asking, John, is this OSR? Is it 5e? Does it use 3.5, Pathfinder, OGL, D20? Is it Cephas? What is it? It is its own unique system, and I think that's cool and awesome. Even as an OSR guy, I love it when I see other systems out there that are creative and interesting. And I'm kind of, I'm pretty interested in this setting and this concept of an alternative Roman history here. So, starting out, you get some cool maps here of the Roman Empire and what is going on. Really, really neat. I have to say, as you probably already guessed, the art is absolutely fantastic in this book. It is very well done, very well laid. The layout is great. And that brings me to my reviews. I want to do a better job at my reviews. I'm going to start reviewing, when I do reviews like this, I'm going to start doing reviews on a three sort of attribute system here, where there's system, layout, and art, and clarity. Meaning, system, like how good is the system once you figure out how to play? Is it fun? Is it interesting? Does it create for interesting scenarios at the gaming table? Layout and art, does it look good? Like, I want my books to look good. I like having books that are a pleasure to open up and read. And then clarity, is it written well? Does it take you multiple times to read over something and figure out like what the heck the game rules are trying to say? Clarity is a very important part of whether or not a product is good or not. So I'm going to be rating this on those 3 tiers out of 10, and then we'll average the two together for the final score for what I'm going to give Lex Arcana. So again, this is an alternative history. The players take on the role of custodes that are members of the Praetorian Guard, and specifically within the Praetorian Guard, an organization called the Cohors Auxilia Arcana. I also want to say that I am not good at Latin. I went to public school and then I dropped out of art school, so I'm kind of a Philistine in that regard. As much as I love history, not the most astute in this regard. So if I mispronounce something, apologies. It's not on purpose. It's just that I'm a moron. So it's just that. So players take on these special soldiers, these special agents of the Roman Empire, tasked with hunting down misuses of magic, unlawful uses of magic within the empire, and dealing with it. There could be cults. There could be opposing political powers that are using magic in order to try and bring down the Roman Empire, and you are tasked as members of this group with defending the Roman Empire. And so it's an interesting thing where the system is tied to setting, and it's kind of like Adventures in Middle-earth or West End Games Star Wars D6, where there is that assumption that you are going to be playing of a specific type of character. So character creation is a little more confined in that realm, where you can't be the guy that wants to burn down the Roman Empire in this. I mean, I suppose you could make it work, but it's going to be kind of almost running counter to the rules within the game as well. There's assumptions being made about the kind of characters players are going to be playing and how they will fit in the setting and the system itself. So, it is a pretty cool game. Again, art is fantastic. You have different classes available to you. You have the fighter, the explorer. The fighter's self-explanatory. You have the explorer, which is like the ranger sort of wilderness survival sort of guy. You have the augur, who does magic. Scholar, who's good at like academics, research, all that kind of stuff. The diplomat, who's good with social interactions and negotiations. And so you have. I like that the classes are limited. There's 5 classes. It says that there's a potential sixth, but I think it's shown in the pre-generated characters, but and later in the book. But so for the most part, most players are going to be playing one of these 5 classes, I guess, or professions. There are attributes. They are called virtues. You have various virtues of the body, which are coordinatio, which is coordination, vigor, or vigor. So this is like coordinatio or ornatio is the capability of the character in terms of dexterity, swiftness, agility, and balance. Vigor is the physical powers of a character in terms of strength, stamina, and physical health. Auctoritas or authority is a virtue of the mind. So these are mental attributes, your personality, and your magnetism and self-confidence. Ingenium, intellect, how smart you are. And then you have virtues of the soul, reason, ratio, the capability of the character to rationally think. It's their force of will. And then you have sensibilitas, which is sensibility. So then you have ritiae, which are like domains of fields of study that your character might be good at. So you have combat or debello, physical, which is decorpor. You have de magia, which is magic, and de natura, which is nature. And then within each of these are various subskills that will increase your chances if you're using this. It's like a skill. So you have like attributes, and then you have like skills, and then you have like these sub skills within skills, pretty much. You are given like options for making your own specialties if you want that would be under the purview of one of these here. For instance, if you want to be skilled in some kind of specific obscure weapon, or some kind of specific and obscure field of magic or knowledge or part of nature or something like that, you can add that as a skill that you may feel your character would need or would know or do based on the background and where they come from, which we'll get into in a little bit. You have hit points and you have pietas. Your pietas are scores that represent your spiritual strength and favor with the gods. An important aspect of this is that every class, every profession has a patron god of the Roman pantheon. And so every character pretty much functions as a cleric in that regard, where they are granted divine abilities from the patron deity of the profession that they've chosen. And if you fall out of favor with that, you lose your fate rolls, and you lose some special abilities as well. So it's an interesting concept, and I think it fits well with the sort of how the setting and the system are tied together. So some sick art here, pretty awesome. More sick art. I love this black on the gold. It's just so cool looking. The marble. It's a good look. So dice you use, typical dice you would expect to use in most role-playing games. The typical polyhedral dice. You do have the fate roll, so pretty much most rolls, as long as you have your spiritual power, you're not out of disfavor with the gods. You do pretty much have exploding dice on many of your rolls as a player character. So the interesting thing is dice points. So this is something in like these domains here. If you're rolling like your combat skills and you're using like your debello score here, where is it at? Up here, and let's say you're using axes. So axes, let's say you have a +1 in axes, and you have a debello of 11. That would be total of 12 for your dice. What would be considered your dice? The +1 just adds on to the parent debello score for combat, and so you have dice points, which can allow you to roll in any combination of dice that you want, as long as it adds up to the number that you're trying to use for that skill or ability. So in example here, it says 11. You could roll a d8 plus a d3, a d6 plus a d5, 2d4 plus a d3. If you had 12, for instance, you could roll 3d4. So you can't go above 3 unless there's special permission by the demiurge or the game master to do so for particularly high numbers. In most cases, you cannot roll more than 3 dice at a time or skill checks, but you're able to combo them however you want. So this is where it gets tricky and interesting because you have exploding dice, so it's easier to get exploding dice on a single die. So let's say you have a dice point of 8 and you're doing a skill check, you could roll the d8 and potentially get the exploding dice, but you're going to have a lot more randomness to your roll. Whereas if you roll 2d4s, you're going to have a little bit more of a stable roll to, or a d6 and a d2. You're going to have a little more stability or averages that will matter more on those rolls. So but it's going to be harder to get exploding dice on those. So you have to make a choice. Do I want to get exploding dice or do I want to get averages more? So there is there is that. There's also degrees of success. We'll get to it here, which again plays into the exploding dice. Do I want to try and you want to roll as high as possible, but it's just a matter of how do I get there to do it. And so a marginal success is obviously not as good as a complete or exceptional success. So it's all player choice and how they want to do. And I think that's kind of an interesting aspect of the game, that it allows players to sort of take the probabilities into their own hands a little more, rather than just like roll a d20 and add your modifier. I like the degrees of success aspect. Again, more really awesome, well done art. Really well done art. So yeah, every character creation is interesting, and it might turn off some people. So you have to start on a worksheet. This is not your character sheet. You start on a worksheet, and then after you get through your worksheet, then you add to your character sheet. Let me get to the character sheet here, and you fill this out after you worked out. I went through and made a character, and I did it on the character sheet here. And I have to say, after doing it one time, it wasn't that hard. It sounds like it's a lot, but once you do it once with the book holding your hand, and it does a really good job of holding your hand while you do it, once you do it once, you can do it again. It's pretty quick, and it's actually not that bad. It's not that fast. It's not that slow. So you have some control here. So you can roll for attributes. You can roll 2d6 or take a standard array. I rolled for 2d because I think rolling is the way to go. Let the gods decide what character you're going to play, what their attributes are. I didn't get to pick my attributes for life. My character is not going to get to pick those attributes either. That's my philosophy. But I went with the 2d6, and so you essentially roll your 2d6, or the standard array. You place them in this box here, and then from this box, you place them somewhere in the twos. So these are like your virtues, your virtues here that are in the twos, labeled the Roman numeral 2. So you got vigor here, ordinatio, sensibilitas, ingenium, ratio, and auctoritas. So you can put any of those 6 scores in there, and then from there you go to your province. Where is your character from? And there's this whole table here which gives you what score you're going to put in these things, in these circles here that point towards that specific skill. So you have I rolled a d20 and I got 6, which is my guy is from Gallia, so I filled in these different attributes here, and or for these specific things. So this 3, so let's see, Gallia, this 3 here for DeBello goes in here. Where's DeBello? Right here. The 3 goes here. And you can see that there's arrows pointing away. So like whatever your vigor score is, you divide it into 2 different numbers that add up to that vigor score. And you put 1 number here and 1 number here. And then you do the same for these. So you can see there's more arrows pointing to that. So the score you get for this is based on these 3 numbers added together. They become that. And so this is how you build your character. It seems, it's interesting. I could see how this can turn off some people. I don't particularly mind it so much. I like novelty. I like different things. I find it to be interesting. So it doesn't bother me, but this is a little different than most traditional role-playing games as far as character creation is concerned. So there is that. And then you have age, and your character, you pick an age, and that affects your various vigor, coordinatio, your various virtues, your various attributes. It can be affected. And then you pick specialties. These are like special abilities that you would have that add that +1, that +2 to your dice points. Which again, the bigger your dice points get for one of these abilities here, the Debello, de Sociat, Societate. I can't speak Latin. I am so sorry. De Naturo, de Magia, like whatever that is, it increases that dice pool. So when you use that field in a skill check or a test, you can roll more dice potentially, or a bigger die, therefore getting a bigger chance of success, bigger chance of exploding die, all that good stuff. So yeah, whatever skill you're using, having a +1 in one of those skills, where did it go? Having a +1 in one of these skills increases that dice point idea, essentially like a dice pool, I guess, and can increase your ability to roll higher or more consistently if you're rolling multiple dice, which is it's just pretty cool. It's definitely an interesting concept, which I'm all about. So you have different combat talents that each class has. Obviously the combat is interesting. We'll get into combat in a little bit, but the fighter gets some cool combat abilities. So all that kind of stuff. You get divine protection from your patron deity, and then after at this point, after you've filled this out, you then switch over to using the character sheet. You transfer these scores that you've generated and these fields of study that you've generated as well. You transfer them to your character sheet, and you continue generating your character from there. So again, I could see how this would be a problem for some people, but it wasn't really a problem for me. You got rules for encumbrance. Any game that has rules for encumbrance, I'm all about. I think that's an important rule to always have, is don't hand wave encumbrance. Some more cool illustrations here. Get the character sheet. So you have these different ways of sort of leveling up your character. Get experience points. You get multipliers that you get to 24 points that you can apply as multipliers to these various aspects of your character, and help your character improve and get better at those abilities and those things. So you get some weapons here. The way combat works is, let's just get to it here. So you look at this here. You have damage difference and the scripture here. So this number here is important. So keep that in mind. We'll get to all that in a minute here. I did find a typo here, so it did say, I was looking at optional background specialties method. There was a point here where like you're generating skills, and where did it go? I don't know. It linked to the wrong page. There's a few little typos like that, but I don't know. That's present in every book. At least they didn't spell the name of the world wrong. Looking at you, D&D 5e. Looking at you, Watsy, spelling Kryn wrong. But yeah, so you generate your character. It's pretty fast. It sounds like a lot using a worksheet and a character sheet, but it's just a different thing, and it's not necessarily any faster or slower than I think most other character generators out there. Like I felt like I was still able to generate a character faster than you do in 5th edition. Here you have the special assassin class that is that special secret class that was not listed as the main one, so you have that as well. Some more really cool art. Combat. So you have two stages that you can be in as a character in combat. You could be engaged or disengaged. Engaged characters cannot use ranged weapons. Disengaged characters are the only ones that can fire ranged weapons. Engaged characters must use hand-to-hand or close quarters combat with like daggers, knives, maces, swords, all that kind of stuff. Combat is kind of done in segments, and the actions of disengaged characters is kind of simultaneous. So let's say that your character gets or a character gets shot and killed with an arrow during the disengaged, like both are disengaged, shooting arrows at other characters and whatnot. One gets shot with an arrow. The one that's shot with an arrow still gets to get his shot off, even if that would knock him out, incapacitate him, kill him, whatever. Everything's considered simultaneous in the disengaged characters. And it's once you get into the engaged characters where the order of things starts to kind of matter a little bit more. So you have a debello roll where, again, you're rolling from your dice point pool to figure out like what combo of dice you're rolling, what target number you're trying to beat. So each tempest or each segment, both combatants roll the debello, applying any specialty as corresponding to the weapon used, and the two results are compared. The combatant who scored the highest result is the attacker, while the other is the defender. In case of a tie, no one managed to land a significant blow, and the combat sequence skips to the next segment or tempest. Start again in step 1. So you have attack potential. The attacker's roll minus the result of the defender's roll determines the attack potential AP. If the defender carries a shield, its parry value is added to the result of the defender. If the AP is equal to 0 or less, the attack was blocked by the defender. Skip to the next segment. If the AP is equal to 1 or more, the attack is successful. Then you have your damage multiplier, and this is based on, again, like kind of levels of success. What is the difference between the attacker and the defender's roll? And that's going to define how much damage is multiplied, which is very interesting. So then the attacker applies the damage multiplier to the damage rating of the weapon used. The result is a dice points value that the attacker rolls to determine the amount of damage inflicted on the defender. So you're going to multiply this by that number I showed earlier on the weapon, and let's say it's times 2, and had a damage multiplier of 6. So that's 12. So I get to roll a d12, or I get to roll 2d6 or something like that, and that's going to be the amount of damage delivered to hit points for that character. And then armor acts as like damage soak. You subtract the armor worn from that damage roll as well. So it sounds convoluted and complicated, but I don't think that it is. I think it makes up for it that it sounds like you're rolling a lot and trying to do lots of math. It's a little crunchy, maybe a little too crunchy for some people. But I think because the way they were smart, the way that they had combat kind of in an old school way where there's like phases to combat, and there's lots of simultaneous stuff. I like. Here's the thing that I kind of dislike about Dungeons & Dragons, and that's AC. I always kind of get bothered by AC. I understand the point of it and what it is, and it's a very elegant, if not, it's both elegant and crude abstraction of what it's trying to represent. But I like this concept of characters essentially attacking each other at the same time, and the winner of this opposed roll is the one that lands a blow, and then you determine damage from there. I don't know. I just think that that's a more realistic way of doing it. And so you got rules for escaping, fighting multiple opponents. If you are outnumbered, bad things happen to you. Fighters are able to not be outnumbered when fighting multiple opponents up to a certain point. So that's cool. So that's the party makeup that it makes it interesting, is the fighter can sort of engage multiple opponents, leaving the ranged fighter disengaged who can like pepper people with arrows. So it's a cool, nifty little thing that I think is a cool little mechanic. So got rules for surprise attacks. It's all pretty cool. I think I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. Let's look at recovering hit points. I hadn't looked at this yet. Combat often ends when one or more custodes custodes in need of recovery from fatigue and wounds received. Whatever the cause of the damage suffered, characters usually recover lost hit points through immediate medical care, first aid, and the reaction of their body's natural healing. I'm always curious about the natural healing rules of systems here, so let's look at that. I feel like that's an important part of seeing how nitty-gritty, how gritty and harsh the game is going to be. Injured custodes heal a number of lost hit points at the end of a night's sleep or half a day spent resting based on whether they are resting in the open, for example. Okay, I like that. Sleeping on a camp bed while traveling or in a real bed in a comfortable and reasonably sanitary location. Character resting in the open recovers 3 hit points if the treated box is checked, or no hit points if it isn't. So that's cool. I like that. Because you're going to have higher hit points. Hit points are determined by adding your coordinatio and vigor together, and that's the number of hit points you had. And then your class might plus or minus the hit points that are available to you there. So no rolling for hit points. It's based on your attributes, which is cool. But you're going to have larger hit point pools than you maybe otherwise would believe. So 3 hit points to me actually is pretty good. That what I see hit point wise seems to ratio out kind of OSR like with 1 hit point a day, pretty much. The character is resting in a comfortable place, recovers a number of hit points equal to their vigor score if the treated box is checked, or 3 if it isn't. So that's a little more less brutal, but you got to be in a comfortable place. I think out in the open, adventuring. It's no 5e. Let's say that there's no short rest. You're magically recovered from gaping gut stab wounds that you suffered in the last encounter. So that is definitely good. So some more cool art. Got rules for magic. So magic is it's different, it's interesting. Most of it is like divination magic, reading omens and stuff like that, which I like. I like low magic settings, which this seems to be a lot of. So, you got precognition. Pretty much everything falls into these different ones. Precognition, clairvoyance, retrocognition, so knowing the past. Interpretation of omens, interpretation of dreams, and favor of the gods. Perceiving the favor or disfavor of the gods themselves. So, pretty cool stuff. I like that kind of thing. I don't like... I like the magic missile throwing fireballs thing too, but I think there's a special place for that, and I think there's a special place for this kind of thing as well, and I'm glad they went with this sort of thing as well, because it's just fits the setting a lot better, in my opinion. So you can see like the different rituals here that you can perform. You got the difficulty numbers here that you got to roll for those various skills, and the cost. You use your pietas or your favor with the gods in order to do them. And you can regain them. Usually characters regain them at the end of an adventure, specified here, but sometimes they can encounter the gods and recover them mid-adventure as well if need be. But essentially they have, there's no spell slots or anything like that. It's magic is a resource that they expend and do their favor with the gods, essentially. So at the end of an adventure, though, it's expected that the characters are going to engage in the right kind of rituals and prayers to the gods in order to regain the lost points that they expended on the adventure to cast rituals and do all that kind of stuff. So all in all, I think it's a pretty cool game. You got rules for character advancement. Again, you have all these multipliers here. It's pretty straightforward. You do have, let's see, you do have pre-generated characters here as well, so if there is some stuff that doesn't make sense to you, I always appreciate when they give you lots of different character pre-generated options. So you got like some assassins here, this guy is an augur, so it's pretty cool. You got their scores, everything's laid out for you, just gotta put all that stuff into your character sheet and you're good to go. So again, the art is just really good. A lot of these character designs are really neat. I think they're pretty cool. There's that guy again. Seen him multiple times. So you got lots of options here for characters, and you can look at these as reference as well too, and make sure. Like I looked at them after, because I'm like, when I made my character, I was like, his name is Aventinus of Gallia, and he's a fighter. I kind of looked at the scores because I've never done this before with this system, and so I looked at it, and it seemed like I had done it right. So character creation is pretty easy, less complex actually in a lot of ways than I thought it was. So, and other systems maybe. So the demiurge. So this is the game master section. You're going to get rules for setting difficulty, target numbers, and all that kind of stuff. Again, you get more on the degrees of success. Just the game master rules and procedures that you're going to have to use and follow, and which is pretty cool. And then you get, after this whole game master section, which does have non-combatant humans. Let's see, you have combatant NPCs. You got your monster manual essentially over here, and you have your animals, uh, fantastical creatures, lots of stuff like that in here. And what's this here? Vampires in the ancient world. So you got you got some vampires, you got some various creatures here, which is pretty cool. You got a whole, this book has every. I'm a big fan of books that have everything you need in them in order to play the game. I think that kind of stuff is pretty cool. You get some lore here, which I think it does encourage players to read, so that they can kind of get into the game world themselves and kind of learn about what the weapons, the armor, the names of all kinds of stuff, organizations within the Empire, that they can kind of figure this stuff out on their own and kind of be immersed in the world before the game starts, because it's not like generic fantasy world where like you kind of come in with these preconceived notions. This is an alternative history, but it's still based on our history in a lot of ways. So you have to go in with some knowledge, I guess. So give some players some research. It's kind of a reversal here, right? Like normally the modern thing is to give dungeon masters your 200-page backstory and make them incorporate that into their game. And in this case, it's the game master saying, read the world of Lex Arcana section and craft your character from that. You do the homework. This is the parameters that I've given you. You do that. So that's pretty cool. You got some names here, which is always nice, especially for like these sorts of realistic settings where you want to have the names of the setting kind of fit the world that the players are in. It's always good to have. And you get some adventures in here too. So you get 2 adventures, it looks like. The Long Winter Nights and the Mothers of Cinnabon. So Cinnabon in the mall. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's rate the game now. So again, I said I would rate it out of 3 aspects: system, layout / art, and clarity. And I think that system-wise, it's a 7. It's not a system for everyone, but it does tickle some of the stuff that I like about role-playing games, and it feels refreshing and different in a lot of ways. I like the dice mechanic. I think that's a really cool idea. And it seems complex, but it's really not. It's pretty simple. I'm not afraid of math and doing addition and subtraction, so that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. I think the math phobic will probably have some issues with this game, but I don't know. If you're math phobic, you probably shouldn't be playing tabletop role-playing games where you're rolling dice and doing simple math in a lot of cases. So I like the system. I think it's cool. I think character creation is very interesting. I was a little skeptical when having to do these worksheets before you even get to your character sheet here, but I found it relatively simple. It wasn't that bad to do. Yeah, I didn't find character creation too difficult. It's different, but it's not terrible. It's actually quite fun. I like character creation when it's fun, and it's a very unique way of doing it. One I wouldn't have thought about if I was designing a game. I would have gone like the you know, traditional OSR typical way we're all familiar with. So I appreciate that there was some thinking outside of the box, I guess, in that regard, and it works. You make playable characters that work out well. There was clearly a lot of thought put into this system, so I'm going to give it a 7. And it's a 7, so like a C, because it is not going to be a system for everyone. There's going to be players, again, that are going to be math phobic and are going to be like, I don't know how to divide up my dice for my dice points. Like, what am I going to do? So at the end of the day, though, such a way might be a good way of filtering out players at your table, saying, we're going to play Lex Arcana, and, you know, this is what it's all about. It's only those that are really interested in playing that game and really love, I think, role-playing games are going to really be interested in dealing with that kind of stuff. So, so 7 out of 10 in that regard. So layout, I think the layout for this book is really good. I think it's clean. It looks nice. The art is fantastic. So I gave it a 10. It just is a good looking book. I think it looks great. And the layout, the art, all that stuff is good. So 10 in layout. Clarity, I said 9. I felt like it's not perfect in its writing, but I understood what the rules are and what the game is about, because it was written in a concise, clear way. There's no real ambiguity going on here. So that is quite nice. That's pretty cool looking there. Just cool art. That really like looks like a world that I want to adventure in, you know? Like that we should want to adventure in as players and DMs. So that's cool. So yeah. So system, giving it a 7. Layout and art, giving it a 10. Clarity, giving it a 9. That gives us a score of about 8.7, rounded all together. So quite like that. I give the game an 8.7 out of 10. Basic expert score of 8.7 out of 10. So tell me what you think. Does this game look interesting to you? Link will be in the video description to get it on DriveThruRPG, as well as to their Kickstarter. Let me know what you think. Does it sound interesting, or does this sound absolutely awful to you? Let me sound off in the comments. Let me know. It's not OSR. It's not 5e. It's not any of that. It's its own unique thing, and I appreciate it just for that fact, I think, as well. So 8.7 out of 10 for Lex Arcana by Acheron Games. So check it out. It gets a thumbs up from me. So until the next video, guys, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.